All right. Should be able to chat now. I'll just wait for some folks to jump on here. Should be able to chat. So anyway, what has been going on with me since we last spoke? Spent the weekend doing exciting things like cleaning out the garage. So now my garage is pretty awesome. And I've cleaned out the shed as well. So two very exciting things. Saturday was garage day and Sunday was shed day. Cleaned it up, got rid of a bunch of stuff, organized it all. It's amazing. I could almost live in my garage now, possibly with my shed, in the way that it's cleaned and organized. Something that's been a long time coming, and it was in my plans for this summer, but took advantage of the time that we have off here right now. And 50-degree days is better to do those activities than when it's 95 for sure. So that's what I've been doing. Today, a lot of homeschooling stuff with my two kids. And I've also, as I keep plugging, I have also made many things available to my social studies students online for extra credit. I just added a new extra credit opportunity today. So that brings the total of possibilities up to 3. And they're assignments that had we been in class, some of them would have taken a class period, some 2 class periods. So I'm not posting one up every single day because you can, hopefully you're getting some opportunities from some of your other subject areas. And I just wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to do all that stuff. So I don't want to saddle you with a bunch of things all at once. But they are up there. There are 3 assignments, and you have the ability to go on and complete them, submit them to me. I will look through them and, of course, give you extra credit for the 3rd marking period. As far as the 3rd marking period goes, I'm not sure. I have not heard anything yet officially from our school district. Oh, I can share with you. I did learn today from the governor, from Governor Wolf, and also through their Twitter account, the PDE, Pennsylvania Department of Education's Twitter account, that schools will be closed through April 6th and possibly longer. So again, nothing has officially come down from Ben Salem yet. I would imagine they're working on that response and letter and email and text, and there are all the other ways that we communicate, but it's no secret. I did see that today from hearing the governor say it, and also their Twitter account, the PDE, that we will not have school. So we will not be going back on March 30th. I think everyone kind of knew that, but officially it looks like schools will be closed through April 6th, and depending on how this goes, possibly longer. We have said something by now, I think most homeroom teachers have sent out information, whether it was through a phone call or through Schoology, through email, about the possibility of distance learning. So make sure that you've responded back as far as you have internet access, what you have at home, a desktop, a laptop, Chromebook, which all of you should have a Chromebook, and being in 9th grade, if you're a 9th grader watching this. In my class, you all have Chromebooks. And I don't know. I haven't received any information yet in terms of how we're going to proceed, but it looks like we're going to be out of school for an extended period of time. So be prepared for that. How it's all going to work out, though, I have no idea. Probably similar to what I'm offering you now will be assignments posted and an opportunity for you to do them and turn them in. Of course, I'm available during the day, of course, like we would be at school, Monday through Friday. And I answer stuff over the weekend too, but since none of us are going anywhere. So if you have questions on things, I'm looking into a few things of how we can maybe even conduct an online class. Now, it wouldn't be a class similar to what we have in school, obviously. It would probably be something where it'd be 5-10 minutes of a video type of situation to talk, explain things. Maybe about an assignment, then you can go on Schoology and complete it and submit it. Again, this is not official. I'm just giving you some ideas to prepare for something in the future looking like that. I'll still do these from time to time, these sort of impromptu live from the bunker streams. If you have any questions, you just want to jump on and chat. I don't know if you guys have looked into Zoom. Has anyone out there looked into Zoom yet? It's another option where we could actually have many of us up on the screen, almost sort of like a teleconferencing, but with video. So we could have many people up on the screen. We'd all see each other. We'd all be able to talk to one another. But right now on YouTube, this is just me being on screen mostly and reading chats from you and trying to respond back to chats. Where with Zoom, and I believe it's a free account. That's actually one of my projects later today or tomorrow. I'm going to look into setting up something for each class. And for those who are available, we can just get together and maybe actually talk through computer, through your laptop, through your Chromebook, where we can see each other and maybe talk back and forth. That might be a little better than this format where it's basically just me talking and you going ahead and chatting. I don't see anything coming through the chat. Usually you guys are chatting away. So I don't know if that's just a feature that's not working today, or let me try to put something and see if it goes up. Well, mine worked. Still no. Don't know what's up with that. Unless you just don't feel like talking today, which is totally fine. Rip Supreme's Wi-Fi. Greeting from Australia. Are you okay? Yes. So far, so good. Thank you for asking, and I'm hoping you guys are as well. I know you certainly have been through a lot, not just with coronavirus, but of course with the fires. So it's been a rough one, 2020 for lots of us. That's a shame. But it's you never know what life's going to throw at you, right? And we do our best to get through it. The main thing, what I like that I'm seeing, at least through my community, is a lot of people are banding together, helping each other out. There was sort of that initial panic from everybody, and I think that's natural. I think we all think about ourselves and the people closest to us first to make sure that we're all okay. And this is where the rush on the grocery stores and for some reason toilet paper. Though I still can't figure that one out. Though I could see stocking up on steaks and canned items and batteries possibly and bottled water. But the toilet paper one I think will be forever a mystery for humans 100 years from now to study why in the grand pandemic of 2020. Everyone felt the need to get copious amounts of toilet paper. Last time I checked, I don't think it tastes very good. I don't think you can eat that, and it's not going to add much to your diet. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, that's been something that will boggle the mind. I'm hoping you guys are keeping up with the actual authorities out there, and not so much government ones, although it's important to listen to direction. For me, what gives me comfort in times like this is listening to actual real scientists and real medical professionals. And there's been plenty on podcasts that you can find on YouTube and your various podcast platforms that have really gone out of their way to explain this, not only in just the virus itself, but how pandemics work, how quarantines work. What we can expect if we don't adhere to some of the social distancing, and businesses are closing down. And believe me, this is something that's unprecedented in our lifetime. Obviously, this has happened on the earth many, many times. But in a society like today in 2020, where we're all so connected, as much as whether we want to think so or not, we really are connected globally. For a virus to be able to happen in Asia, because of how many thousands of airline flights are happening every single day, how quickly that virus can spread pretty much anywhere on the globe. So, certainly a humbling experience. I think we're going to learn a lot from this in the future. Right now, all of our energy and efforts really have to go into figuring out how to get through today and tomorrow. But certainly when this sort of calms down, we really do need to reevaluate the situation, because I think you're going to see more things like this. And again, not to be a doomsdayer and not to worry about it, but I think this is real. I mean, as the population continues to increase on the earth. The more connected we are, the cheaper travel is, right? Let's face it. To buy an airline ticket, it's not that it's cheap, but it certainly is cheaper than it probably has ever been. And that means more people get on flights. And with diseases like this, where you can spread it without even having symptoms at first. You can even theoretically get tested for it and test negative, even though you have the virus that's incubating. It just didn't show up on the test yet. It's too early in its phase to show up even on test. So you think you're fine and you're out there just doing your thing and you're spreading it to other people. So I think we're going to have to reevaluate in a lot of ways that these things are not only just spread, but also how we can possibly prevent this in the future. And probably more importantly, our response to it. I think that's going to be more of a something that comes out of this is our hospitals are going to need to have stockpiles of masks and gloves and respirators and ventilators. Just, we may not use them. They may be sitting in the stock room somewhere, but in case something like this does happen again, and the numbers show that it will, that we're more apt to respond to it more responsibly, quicker. We can cut down the amount of people that need to come into a hospital because we're used to, okay, we know how to social distance, we know how to shut things down, and we know how to continue online schooling, all those good things. We'll learn from this, and that's really what we need to do. But in the meantime, that's for the future. Right now, we have to get through it together and deal with it on a day-by-day basis. So I don't really have a lot today for everybody. It was just kind of jumping on real quick and saying hi. Again, for my students, you can look for more of this in the future. How this is going to come down, how this is going to shake down over the next coming weeks. It's going to be a day-by-day thing, how it's going to unfold, how we're going to deal with distance learning. As we now know, we're going to be out of school a little bit longer, and possibly a lot longer than we originally thought. Again, this came down from the governor of Pennsylvania today that schools will be closed at least through April 6th. All right. And of course, that could be longer than that. It depends on how everything goes. The real challenge is going to be how we all go back. I think that's it's like two separate things right now. We're working on the initial control as best we can, the spread of the virus, so that our hospitals do not get overwhelmed and they're not in this bad position of having to decide, oh, well, this person's 80 and they're diabetic, and this person over here is 40 and they're in decent health otherwise, and we only have one ventilator. Who do we choose to save? We don't want to get into that position. Obviously, that's a terrible position for anyone to be in. So I could, that's stage one of figuring this out. But then for me, it's like I go, so what does it look like when we all go back? Because if we're successful in stemming the tide of this thing, which so far in our area of Pennsylvania, it looks like we are. What does it look like though when we all go back? Because then we haven't been exposed to it per se. So if we go back to school in a month, are we not in danger of running the same problem of overwhelming the healthcare system in a month if we all just go back? So there certainly is no answer on this, and I've really been looking for it. And have been listening to people who can speak on this. How we go back to school, how we go back to work, how we go back to businesses. Is it even possible that any of the sports start up again, at least with crowds and stadiums? I don't know. I don't see how it is. I don't see how that is possible. I know that this social distancing is serving two purposes. One, to slow the spread of it, not to overwhelm the system, but two, it's to buy time for scientists to possibly come up with an antiviral or some type of a vaccine, so that the combination of maybe receiving a vaccine or an antiviral and people who have already been exposed sort of creates this herd immunity, and it's not as easily spread throughout all of us, and at least to the point where if something were to happen where we would need medical attention, that we'd be able to get it. So it's really tricky. It is hard to understand, I think, and I think that our best people are still trying to understand it. There's new evidence. there's new information, I should say, not evidence, but new information coming out every single day, um, in terms of how China dealt with this. What did they see for symptoms? There's a new thing out now today where one of the symptoms can be where you lose your sense of smell and even taste. So similar to how you get a cold, when you get a head cold and there's that period of time where you can't really taste food, that is also a possibly a symptom. And again, I'm just passing this information along. Please do not take it as medical advice or scientific evidence. But these are things that are being sort of bandied about in the intellectual circles of scientists and researchers. Another interesting thing is, again, possibly that the taking of ibuprofen could possibly make it a little bit easier for the virus to invade cells in the lung. And again, this is completely, I would say, I don't want to say hearsay. It's got a little more weight than that, but I wouldn't put a lot of thought into that until actual researchers verify that with rigorously based scientific evidence. But it's just one more thing in the toolbox for those of us who are maybe trying to prevent getting it or passing along to somebody else, that they're looking into NSAIDs essentially, and there might be a correlation with the taking an NSAID and making it a little bit easier for the virus to spread into the healthy cells of the lung. And again, I'm just throwing that out there, not as that's valid scientific evidence, because it's not. But if you don't have to take an NSAID, take Tylenol instead of ibuprofen. Why not? It's just one more thing. Again, one more tool in the toolbox. But I'm certainly not trying to sound like that came from any rigorously tested scientific evidence, because it's not. So there's so much misinformation being spread, and I just want to be careful that I'm not doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. Anyway, well, look, I feel like I've rambled long enough about this. It was really just kind of dropping on here real quick, just checking in and see how everyone else is doing. Otherwise, keep listening for, or I should say, keep a lookout for more of these. I will give you more notice next time. I kind of just walked by and saw my computer and figured I'd just say hello real quick. But next time I'll give a little more notice. And wait, hold on a second. Some people are coming in the chat now. Yeah. From Australia. Yeah. Once again, we have no school and we are happy. What about you guys? Same thing. We have no school here. Schools are pretty much shut down, at least through April 6th for us here in Pennsylvania. Can't speak for the rest of the country, but I'm sure everyone is following suit. Cowboys fan 19, Texas. We are having rodeos over toilet paper. Yeah, man, toilet paper is like gold now. I don't know. It's, again, times like this, you want to have a sense of humor, as serious as it is. I know my personality is to good at joking and maybe sometimes inappropriate, but it's sort of a defense mechanism of dealing with the gravity and the stress of the situation. I do like to turn in humor. And I think at one point, when the more seriousness of this gets settled, someone's going to have to do some sort of social study on toilet paper, and why that was, almost more than food was what everyone seemed to worry about. I just, maybe it's just a study on the human condition and panic. Someone hears about toilet paper and, oh my God, all the toilet paper is going, and you realize, well, at some point I'm going to need to get to, I don't know. It's like this sort of irrationality takes over in the brain. I know that thing I just mentioned about the ibuprofen and Tylenol, that information is starting to get out. And of course, now there could be a run on Tylenol in some of the stores. Like ibuprofen, all the Advil still sitting there. And then for some reason, instead of someone just buying a bottle of Tylenol, they got to buy all the bottles of Tylenol. Because, like, first of all, just do the math on that. You really can't. You're not supposed to take more than those 2 tablets every 6 hours of acetaminophen. So, just mathematically, without possibly doing some kind of internal organ damage. So, buying 5 or 6 bottles of 400 pills of Tylenol is like, how many years supply of Tylenol? But I don't know, maybe in panic, people don't even think of these things. They just kind of There's my phone going off. Sorry about that. They don't think about this stuff, they just panic, and it's like they don't even think about math, or that, hey, all right, I got my bottle of 400 pills. That's going to do me and my family for a very long time. No, why don't I leave some for somebody else to be able to have that and bring their fevers down, and alleviate some of their pain. So with toilet paper, that is going to be, maybe finally in America, we'll go with the more people are going to look into the sort of European model of the bidet. Um, you know, I said the same thing, not to get too graphic on this, but it's like if you're out of toilet paper, let's say you are, it's not the end of the world. You can jump in the shower, and you'll be fine. It's insane. Toilet paper. Who knew that would have been the thing that flew off the shelves first. Not the and then of course the things followed after that, food and now Tylenol. It's almost like if you were sort of somehow you could brand without looking like you're creating some panic in a vulnerable time, but like a business could come up with some. Well, research has shown that in China, when people stood on one foot and hopped around 15 times and and ate Mentos, that it seemed to and then you're going to have people stand on one foot hopping around and buying all the Mentos in the store. So I don't know, man. It's maybe it's just our human nature to want to try to think we have control over a situation that, quite honestly, control is an illusion, probably, right? I'm not the first person to say that, but control is an illusion. We think we have control over something, and then just some random, virus jumps from an animal into a human in a, country, relative to where I live, halfway around the world, and it's within a month, it's in your neighborhood. Talk about control, or lack thereof. There's very few things you have control over other than your reactions to things. But, who knows? You could certainly have this stuff and not even known about it, a month, 2 months ago. Anyway, we're not testing as much as we could have. And like other countries, I think you look at that South Korean model, they really, I think, did a great job in prioritizing. Okay, let's test everybody. Let's find out now who has it, who doesn't. Those who have it, we can certainly isolate them, and they really seem to control it a lot better than we appear to be so far. Now the question is, since so many people in South Korea didn't get exposed to it, what happens when they all go back to work and school? And this is sort of that second phase. And I know here, at least in America, we're still dealing with phase one. We're desperately not trying to follow the Italian model and getting into trouble that way. But I would be really interested in see. Apparently China is starting to slowly get back on its feet now. Their number of new cases are really, really low, and they're starting to go back to work again and school. So it would be interesting to see, is there another outbreak of it, a second outbreak of it? Since so many people were exposed in that area, theoretically, the way most of these viruses work is you seem to have an immunity to it for a period of time after getting it. And you don't get it again right away. But we don't know. It's too early. No one's really willing to say that in the scientific community that, you're definitely going to be immune to it if you get it. And chances are, I would imagine if you got it and you recovered, you're probably the same thing would happen again. But the danger of this is passing it on to someone else who is not going to be as fortunate as you. And I think that's really the big problem here. So where you live in Texas, my supermarkets are closed, so I am relying on the ranch. Yeah, wow. That's got to be cool. I mean, maybe not right now, but, sort of living on your own land. That's kind of how we did it back in the day in America. You lived on your own land, you farmed your own land. But of course, it was also backbreaking work. I mean, your whole day was, doing stuff around the house. You grow your own food. You had to harvest your own food. You had to take care of your own animals. You had to slaughter your own animals. You had to field dress them, and then you had to eat them. Like, that was literally your day job, was surviving. So as much as you could sit here and reminisce about the good old days, you certainly, there was no time to sit really probably and watch TV or play PlayStation or anything like that, because your whole day would have been tending to your chores and keeping your land, making sure that you have food, your animals have food and whatnot. So, but I would imagine at a time where food is scarce, or you don't have those modern luxuries of going to a store and just purchasing what you need. If you have that already sort of set up, at least you're have a good chance of sustaining yourself, as opposed to being reliant on other places, to do everything for you, and especially those who can't get around as well. That's really the concern, I think, of this too, is just how many people cannot get around. So we'll see. I don't know. Hopefully we learn something from this. And we tend to, in our society, it seems so important to us because it's happening to us right now, and then it will pass. And then we sort of move on with our lives and forget about it, and all that sort of like, yes, let's fix the healthcare system. Yes, let's make sure we have enough ventilators. Let's make sure we have enough masks. Let's put this in place. And all these good ideas start to flow around. And then 2-3 months after it all sort of subsides, it goes back to business as usual. So hopefully, I think, knowing that this is going to happen again, I don't see how it could not. I mean, if we look at history, it's happened every century. There's something. So and look at it happening so far in our century. We've had those outbreaks of SARS and MERS and H1N1, and these are all have happened in just this century, and now this COVID-19. So it's hard to imagine that this isn't going to be something that happens again. I'm not saying it happens again next year, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and you're going to see what it's going to do to the world economy. I know that doesn't seem like something to worry about in a time like this, in terms of, we care about humans, and just everyone being healthy and getting through this. But something else that really, I think the average person isn't considering is, what does the economy look like in each country? How many businesses are going to go out of business and not come back once this is over? That's a real possibility. And now you're talking about an unemployment rate. Before this thing started, I think it was 3% in America. I could be wrong. And right now it's possibly could go, if we look at the second quarter, it could be 20%. That's enormous. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Yeah, we have the same thing here. Stores are open, but they're modifying their hours. We have, actually, where I live, we have a couple of stores that are open 24 hours, but now they're running on a sort of 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. schedule. And so that gives them a chance to restock at nighttime. Plus, they were starting to cut back on. There were people who were just going at midnight and figuring, okay, there's no one there, or very few people would be there, and they can go and just buy everything they wanted to buy. So I think that's helped them not only have a chance to restock, also clean the store to really disinfect, and to stop the people who are, for some reason, still buying massive amounts of toilet paper, even though they already have it, stored at home. And some of the stores are not all of them are doing it, but some of them are starting to do where they are having some seniors, senior citizens being able to come in and shop. So they're not around so many people, which I think is awesome. I think that's a great move. The stores that are doing that. Isn't AIDS an outbreak? Yeah. Well, again, I'm just riffing here. I'm certainly no expert on disease, but it certainly was. I remember when AIDS first came out. I mean, it was just another panic, and we were just so uninformed and uneducated on it. Where you just thought AIDS was everywhere and floating around. If you touched something, you were going to get it, and we just really didn't know anything about how it was transmitted properly. The good news is they have numerous medications now that were, before AIDS was a death sentence. I mean, I remember thinking, and well, there were a time it was, if you ended up contracting the HIV virus, then progresses to AIDS, that was it. I mean, it was just a matter of time. And now we really have come a long way where people are living their full lives with HIV. So, there's hope here. We've, as a human species, how many diseases have we beat down? Smallpox. It's still, I believe the virus can still, the plague, smallpox. These things are still around. Unfortunately, measles is making a comeback, and this largely is because people aren't getting vaccinated. So it's just one of those things. I don't understand. Based on a falsified scientific report that vaccines had a correlation with autism, and it's just amazing. It just shows how some things get into our minds, and that just gets repeated as though it's the truth. And it's been a while. The person who published that paper that showed a correlation between vaccines and autism has since retracted that and admitted that he falsified information to show this. And it's still to this day, you have people that are just, it's like truth to them that the vaccine causes autism, and they're just, to this date, there seems to be no scientific evidence that that's the case. Now, can it be proven maybe at a later date? Possibly. Look, I'm a firm believer that in every medication there is a possible side effects. There are outliers where things happen to certain people that it's bizarre. They have a reaction or a certain side effect that they may be one of very few that happens to. And the vast majority of us are fine with it. So I don't know. It's a complicated thing. I think you've heard Anthony Fauci said it, but nothing in biology is 100%. I mean, there's always seems to be this wiggle room of, possibly this doesn't work, or possibly this happens to you. But you're sort of always, I think in medicine, you're always balancing risk and reward. Look, there's certain surgeries that you may have to get that are life-saving, but they're not 100% positive outcomes. But the risk reward is have the surgery, have a chance of living, don't have the surgery and dying. So I think there's a lot of medications that are like that. There are risks to taking any medication. But what's that risk reward equation? Well, okay, don't take this medication and your quality of life severely takes a hit. Take the medication, you're able to have a high quality of life, but there's a possibility that over time taking this medication could possibly cause another problem. So I don't know. I think that's why you work with doctors, and I think you do your own homework. I think you read multiple sources. Don't just look at one. Listen to people who really understand this stuff. And at the end of the day, you make an informed decision and you live with it. You live with the consequences. Toilet paper was not a big factor during the AIDS outbreak. Although I remember people thinking you could get it by sitting on a toilet seat. I do remember that. And again, panic is, listen, when we don't understand something as humans, we don't have the education, we create our own stories, and those stories that get into our brains and we tell us the stories, they feel real. They feel like they make sense. They feel logical. This is why we have science. Science steps in and says, you know what, hey, that's a great story you're telling, but let's test all that. And then science goes, that doesn't work. We've tested it numerous times. So as much as you're in love with your hypothesis, as much as you love it, and it makes sense to you, and you tell everybody else, and you go, wow, that sounds very logical. That sounds like it really makes sense. We test it and we find out that, no, you're completely wrong. It doesn't work like that at all. So that's the beauty of the scientific method, I guess. And it's the best thing that we got so far. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I got to get going here. Many, many other household chores await me. All right. I'll see you guys next time. I will give you a little more notice and we can live stream with the chat. In the meantime, stay safe, stay at home. Check out the website, Check out Schoology for extra credit opportunities. And, we'll get through this. Ciao.